So you're ready to go vegan, but now what? That's the big question. How do you do it? We're about to find out with Dr. Jasmine Sardana, the plant-based doc, on the exam room.
Thank you so much, Chuck, for having me.
You have such a fun personality. We've done the Facebook Live before. I'm going to call you Dr. Jazz.
That's my name. I'm Dr. Jazz.
Right on, Dr. Jazz. All right, come on. Well, let's sing a tune about plant-based diets, right? All right, so here we go. How does a person go vegan? I mean, that is really the biggest question, because when I was still overweight, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I wasn't ready to go vegan at that point yet. But also, I didn't even know like what it was, how to even start it. But when I finally got there, I was still like, I was that person like, okay, I'm ready to go, but what do I do?
Wait, how?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Loaded question, but that's my first one to you. How do you go vegan?
That's such a great question. It's a tough question. And the reason why it's tough is because it's going to be different for each person. And I know that there's going to be a general formula. There's going to be a couple steps that I'm going to lay out here for the listeners. But the first step that I think is most important, and I think your story, Chuck, resonates with so many people because you found your why. And that's the first step in going plant-based, is figuring out, and going vegan is figuring out your why. Why exactly am I doing this? You know, am I going vegan? Am I going plant-based because I want to be healthy? And then ask yourself why again. Why do I want to be healthy? Okay. And then you ask yourself why a few more times, and you get down to the real nitty-gritty and the core of exactly why you want to be healthy. And why that's so important and why that has to be the first step is because during those challenging days when you're like, oh, you know, I really just want to stop in for a quick, you know, fast food fix, or no, I can't do it that day. That's exactly that core, that message, or that reason is what's going to push you through and sustain you. And that's what you're going to be able to pull from. So step one, figuring out truly, being honest with yourself, exactly why you want to make this change.
Yeah, that's a big one. Is that tough to get to the core of the why, as I'll call it?
It is. You know, so when I see my patients upstairs at Barnard Medical Center, that's one of the first things that I do is I do a lot of, I speak to my patients very differently. Yes, I'm an expert and I dole out a ton of advice when I need to, but I'm of the belief that all of my patients that come in to see me, specifically when it comes to diet and nutrition and their health, whatever problems that they're coming to me with, the solutions are already within them, right? The power and the ability to be able to change themselves is already within them. So recognizing that is key and fundamental. So when I talk to my patients and I ask them their whys, oftentimes, you know, people tear up. They cry because it's really tough. It's really hard sometimes to be honest with ourselves, to figure out, well, one, to be honest, to say, well, you know, I let myself get to this point, or I haven't been as healthy as I would have wanted to be at this point in my life. To recognize that and to be honest and truthful about it. And then to, you know, think about, okay, now the next step is figuring out how am I going to get better, and what is going to push me? What's going to keep me going? Right. So the background of asking patients what their why is understanding. So there is this behavioral theory, the theory of behavior change. And what that supposes is that each person is in a different stage of change. So they are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance stage. So at you know, all of us, depending on whatever change it is, you fall into one of those boxes. So it's really key and important. It's something that we don't learn in medical school, but I think it's so important, especially when it comes to behavior change, which is so key and fundamental when it comes to changing your diet, in recognizing and understanding which bucket or which box your patient, your family, your patient, your friend is in. So being able to recognize that there are going to be patients who are just not ready, who are in pre-contemplation stage, who are just not ready to hear it or to make that change, but that's okay. So pre-contemplation is the stage where they don't even know it's a problem. Right. They're like, what do you mean? Right. I can keep eating whatever I'm eating. It's fine. Contemplation is, okay, they're starting to think about, okay, maybe I need to change. And in either of those stages, what's important or what the intervention that the physician or the provider can do at that point is to continue to provide encouragement, to be non-judgmental, and to provide information.
I did get this email from a listener. I always ask about what can we answer on the show for you guys? What topics can we touch on? And I got this one from a listener named Andrea. She wrote me on Facebook. She said, can you talk about the how to do more plant-based? How will that help? I'm not talking about the standard eat more of this. I'm talking about describing the process. Walk people through it. What does it look like?
Perfect. So now that we've gotten or talked about figuring out your why, which is important, I think it's great to kind of step to the nuts and bolts a little bit. So planning and preparing ahead of time is going to set you up for success. So I think the next step, what I've done in my journey and with my family, has been to do a kitchen and a pantry purge. And I say this to my patients all the time. The joke is, if the devil doesn't live in your kitchen, if the devil doesn't live in your pantry, he's not going to tempt you. So why am I going to put a bag of Oreos in my pantry if I know that I'm not going to be able to resist it? Why would I do that to myself? Right? We do it all the time, and so kick the devil out. Like, take out whatever it is in your pantry, in your kitchen, that you know that you're not going to win that battle with. As soon as you open that, you're going to go for it. You're going to go to it. Get rid of it.
What does a typical plant-based meal look like, I guess, for you? Because really, the menus can be all over the place. You know that.
Yeah.
Like, I eat a wider array of food now than I ever did before.
Absolutely.
So what does it look like?
So for me, I'm really lucky in that both my husband and myself, we come from a really rich cultural heritage. We're both Indian. We eat a lot of flavorful foods, a lot of spices, a lot of vegetables. So I was a bit concerned about, when I go plant-based, how am I going to make sure that these things are still going to be a part of our diet? And I realized very quickly that even when we eat, eggs and chicken, after cutting that out, after a while, you don't miss it any longer. So for me, what a typical plant-based meal looks like has a lot of flavor. It has a lot of herbs. It has a lot of spices. But typically, it's a vegetable, a green, and a whole grain. We eat typically brown rice or basmati rice at home, and sometimes for the children too, we'll do a 1-to-1 mix. If I get a little bit of backlash about just brown rice, right? I'll be like, okay, fine, we'll throw in a little bit, and then slowly we'll work on that.
Right.
I pick my battles, and we do a ton of fruit at our house. So one fun thing I like to do with fruit, especially for my kids, is that I'm big on fruit platters. Like, I will do it up.
Yeah, that's good. So that's typically the kinds of things that you eat.
That's right.
And I think that this is a big key, and something that a lot of people people want the nuts and the bolts, and they want a how-to, and they want, everything kind of handed to them. And
right.
And it's a great way to get going, to have somebody walk you through that. We have a phenomenal 21-day vegan Kickstart app that walks you all the way through the grocery shopping to the menus for the first 3 weeks as you're transitioning to a plant-based diet. But here's the thing, right? So you get started with something like this. This is why it's called a Kickstart.
That's right.
But not every, and I will readily admit, not every recipe on here really appeals to me.
Right.
I can't stay on a quote-unquote diet if what I'm eating doesn't taste good to me.
Thank you.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it's about finding out what works for you.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. So you mentioned the 21-day Kickstart app, which I think is such an amazing resource. And when my patients come to see me, that's really what they want. Oftentimes is, I really need meal planning. I want you to just tell me exactly what to eat on this day, and that day. And maybe that'll work for a little while, right? Like, I can say, okay, Chuck, make sure you're eating this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I can give that to you. But it's similar to, you can give a man a fish, or you can teach them how to fish,
Right,
right? So
right.
this is great to start off with. But my follow-up question to my patients are going to be, that's great. I can tell you exactly what to eat using this app. But after that, you have to do a little bit of that work. Figure out the foods that you like. I mean, we all kind of know all the things that we like, but it's key to kind of write it down a little bit, to write them down and to say, okay, this is what I really like for dinner. This is my go-to for lunch. This is what I really like for breakfast. And starting off with the foods that you already like, and if it happens to have meat in it, consider or figure out how you can remove that meat or what you can replace that meat product with, or dairy with, to start off with. And once you get going and you have a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks worth of meals, start with 1 week. That might be a little bit overwhelming. So start with a week worth of foods that you already know that you like, and turn them into the plant-based versions of it. And then start experimenting, research, go on Instagram. There are amazing accounts to follow. Go on Pinterest, whatever those resources that you look to find new recipes to try. I know I happen to enjoy cooking, but I recognize that not everyone does.
Right.
And that's an important piece. So I'm not saying to go out and you have to cook every single meal, but it is going to be for your benefit and for your health to be able to find 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meals and recipes that are going to be your go-to.
You know what? We can't wrap up without talking about this.
Okay.
People are hearing about, how do we cook this? How do we make this? How do we make that? Is the vegan diet super complicated to cook? It's not.
No, it's not. They're not paying us, but I have an Instant Pot at home, which is this super handy dandy pressure cooker / TV / VCR. I don't know. It has like all the
TV, VCR. You're bringing it back. It plays your old VHS tapes.
It has like every single function possible. So when you talk about, does a vegan diet have to be hard? No, I worked. So last night I ended up working late. My husband came home and threw in potatoes, peas, and carrots into our Instant Pot with onions, garlic, and Indian spices, turmeric, cumin, and coriander powder, salt, and 5 minutes. I kid you not. Okay, that's not counting like the peeling and the chopping of the vegetables. Fine, that's okay. You can add another 5 minutes and maybe add another 10 minutes for like corralling the children.
Right.
But he threw everything in, turned it on, 5 minutes, and it was done and delicious.
Wow.
And it really. I think when you think about anything being hard or anything being easy, it comes down to the story that you tell yourself about it. And oftentimes what I find in my own life and when I speak with my patients, the only person that's standing in their way is themselves.
Right.
So if you change the narrative about going plant-based, about trying, if you're considering it and say, if you're telling yourself or what you're hearing, or telling yourself right now is, what if it's really hard? What if it's really difficult? I implore you and I challenge you to say, well, what if it's really easy?
Yeah.
What if it's going to be just fine? What if I find out that it's going to be really, really enjoyable?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really just has to do with the narrative. So if you're worried about it, just change the narrative a little bit. It's not going to be that hard.
Doc, thank you so very much, Dr. Jazz. You are upstairs at the Barnard Medical Center. You can make an appointment to go see her. She is a very real person. I promise you this. barnardmedical.org is the place to go to make that appointment. And oh, by the way, if you really, really, really want to get down to the nuts and the bolts and have your handheld all the way through this transition process, coming up January 10th and 11th is a phenomenal event called our Kickstart Intensive. And we are bringing in all sorts of experts from across the country to be there. All of our experts here from the Physicians Committee are going to be there. Dr. Barnard will be there. We will give you the A to Z about adopting a plant-based diet. We're going to show you how to cook, what to buy. We'll give you that list. And then, we're going to bring you into the kitchen too. We're going to show you what gadgets are really going to help you as you cook. We talked about a wonderful nonstick cookware, which is so critically important. And plus, we're going to feed you. I mean, all that talk about food.
Yeah.
you know?
It's delicious. I've been there.
This event,
So good.
yeah, it's at the Grand Hyatt. I know these chefs. We've had these chefs on the show. They do such great work over there. That's Chef Darren Lee and his crew over there at the Grand Hyatt. So here's the deal right now. Exclusive just for Exam Room listeners, because it is the new year and we want to get you guys going on the right foot, January 10th and 11th. And we want you to get going with a friend or a family member. Get healthy together, right? So here's what we can do. Buy one ticket. When you do, we will send you a link. You can purchase a second ticket for only $20. That's a huge savings.
Yes.
Huge savings.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays,
Yeah,
right?
no kidding. You know, I mean, for $20 alone, I mean, that's, I mean, just the meals alone that you're going to get, you know, served are worth way more than that. And plus, you're going to learn the how-to. You're going to hear from, you know, all of these different doctors. They're going to walk you through it, A to Z, doctors, nutritionists. You're going to hear inspirational stories and testimonials. I'll be speaking there on that Friday, the 10th, the morning of. So I would really love to see you there. January 10th and 11th, Grand Hyatt, D.C. We have a link to register right now in the show notes for this episode. You can also visit pcrm.org and just search for Kickstart Intensive, and you will find the page there to register as well. And when you do, make sure that you take advantage of this offer. Buy one ticket. You will be emailed a link for a second ticket for just $20. Give the gift of health for just $20 in 2020. Huh?
Yay, I love that.
Pretty cool, right? Dr. Jazz, thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Chuck.
This has been fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're definitely going to come back, right? You're going to come
Thank
back?
you.
Right?
Total. I'm right upstairs.
Right on.
Just call me.
Right, okay.
I'll run down.
Make the show your why.
Oh,
Huh?
I love it.
Thank you. If you like that interview and you want more of it, go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Leave a nice comment below. And for the full interview, also head over to Apple Podcast and subscribe to the Exam Room Podcast by the Physicians Committee. New episodes with information and inspiration each and every Wednesday.